Okay, so here's the conclusion for section 2.1. Here is problem number 5. So problem number 5 up here. They have this equation, and they're giving me these various x values, and they want me to plug them into the equation and solve for y each time. So let's do that. In fact, I think what I'll do is I'll go to a fresh screen over here where we get some room. Okay, so number 5. The equation is 8y minus 16x is minus 64. And they give me the first x value, which is negative 2. All right, so what does that mean? That means you plug negative 2 in right there and solve for y. So I'm going to solve that equation for y. So then we get 8y plus 32, right? The two negatives multiply to be positive. Now we're trying to get y alone, so we subtract 32, and we get 8y equals minus 96. Last step to finish solving for y, divide by 8. Y equals, what is that, 12? Negative 12? Negative 12. So then we go back to the problem. That's the first y value. Negative 12. X negative 2 leads to y negative 12. And the ordered point would be negative 2 minus 12. Let's do another one. Let's plug in negative 1 next for x. Now we'll do x is negative 1. We take the same equation and we go 8y minus 16. And this time we plug in the x value, negative 1. And we solve for y. So this is 8y plus 16, again, because two negatives make a positive. Now we got to get x alone, y alone, so we subtract 16 from both sides. That's minus, what's that going to be, 80? And then last step, divide by 8. And y is minus 10. So that's the y value, negative 10, that goes with the x value, negative 1. Let's go back and put that in. So that's negative 10, and that's the order point, negative 1 minus 10. Okay, so then we just keep going. Like this, got to plug in 0, 1, and 2. So now x equals 0. We take the same exact equation. 8y minus 16x is negative 64. And we plug in the 0 for x. And so we get 8y minus 16 times 0 is minus 64. 8y is minus 64. Last step, divide by 8. Y is minus 8. So y value minus 8 goes with x 0. Let's do 2 more. Then we've got x is 1. Same equation. So that's 8y minus 16. 16 times 1 is just 16. And we got to get x alone, so y alone, so we add 16 to both. So 8y is minus 48. And last step, divide by 8. And that'll come out and bring it over here. Y equals minus 6. So y equals minus 6. Goes with x equals 1. And finally, x equals 2. Same equation, yet again, 8y minus 16x is minus 64. Plugged in the x1 here, now plug in the x2 there. And we get 8y minus 16 times 2 is minus 64. 8y minus 32 is minus 64. Add 32. And we get, these cancel. 8y is, what's that going to be? Minus 32, actually. And last step, this is a y here, is divide by 8 on both sides to cancel that out, and y is minus 4. So there's the last three y values, negative 8, negative 6, negative 4. And so negative 8, negative 6, negative 4. So this is the ordered point 0 minus 8. This is the ordered point 1 minus 6. This is the ordered point 2 minus 4. Now they want us to put 2 of them on the graph. It doesn't really matter which 2 at all, so let's just put 2 of them on there. Let's take the first one here, the minus 2 minus 12. That's off the screen. Let's do something a little easier. Let's do, how about 0 minus 8. So over 0, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There it is. There's over 0, down 8. Next, let's put over 1, down 6. So this is over 1, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's 2 of them. You could do more. Over 2, down 4. So from the origin, the way we started the origin, over 2, 1, 2, down 1, 2, 3, 4. Right there, 2, down 4. See how they're all lining up? So any 2 you do will be on this line, and it'll make that straight line. That's the graph of that equation. That line holds millions and millions and millions of points, like our 3 points, and many, many more, that all make the equation true, meaning the x and the y values make it true. Like take this 0 for x, put in 0 for x, and the negative 8 for y, negative 8 for y. See how it makes the equation true? 8 times negative 8, that's negative 64. Minus 16 times 0 is just gone. Minus 64 equals minus 64. You see, any point, any of these points, all of these points make the equation true. That's what a graph is. That's what this graph is. It's a picture of the thousands and thousands of points, the infinite number of points that all make the equation true. We found, 5 points that all make the equation true, and they're all on that line, and there's an infinite number of other points that make the equation true that are also on the line. On we go to number 6. All right, so number 6, we have that equation, and they want us to make a table. Notice they want us to find x that goes with a y0, and then x0, find the y going with that. So we'll do that one at a time. So take the equation minus x plus y is negative 1. Start with the y value of 0. Plug that in. So we get minus x plus 0 is minus 1. So minus x is minus 1. Last step to solve for x, divide by minus 1. X is positive 1. So positive 1 right there. Minus x plus y is minus 1. Now grab a 0 for x and plug it in. And what do we get? We get minus 0 plus y is minus 1. Minus 0 is just gone. So y is minus 1. So y is minus 1. Now these are 2 points that we can put on the graph. Like 1, 0. So that means over 1, up 0. There's 1, 0. And the other one, over 0, down 1, right there. Over 0, down 1. Connect those dots. Oh, I don't know if maybe they just want you to plot the 2 points, and that's it. Okay, so I won't connect the dots. Just, there they are. There's the 2 points. If you did connect the dots, you'd make the line, which is the graph of this entire equation. But I don't think they want that. They just want us to do those 2 points and nothing else. There we go. All right, so number 7. So number 7 is find the x and y intercepts. Okay, so it's very, very similar. Remember, this is x, this is y, this is x, this is y, and they're giving me that equation. So they're saying y is 0, plug in y is 0. What do we get? 5x plus 7 times 0 is 140. That's gone. 5x is 140. Last step to get x alone. Divide by 5. So x is 28. So there we go. And then we start again with the same equation, but this time, so let me start it here. 5x plus 7y is 140. This time, though, we take the 0 and plug it in for x, because the last time it was y0 that we plugged in for. Now it's x. So what do we get when we do that? This drops off. Last step to get y alone there, divide by 7. So y is 20. Y is 20. There it is. It's all they want on that one. Number 8. Find the intercepts. So that's going to be exactly the same. I'm going to skip 8, just like the last one, and 9, just like the last one. These are just like number 8. Number 10, they want the x-intercept and the y-intercept. Okay. Now, what is an x-intercept? And what is a y-intercept? Two answers, right? When they're asking us this, let's go back and look at this one in particular, and let's see something. So notice that this point here, this is a previous problem, number 6, but it holds the same concept. Take a look. That's an x-intercept right there, right? Because this is the x-axis, and this is the y-axis. So, oops. Okay, so this point here is a y-intercept because it's a dot on the y-axis. So what intercepts are? They're dots. They're places where the graph intersects the grid lines. So if you hit the x grid line, then you're an x-intercept. So that'd be right here. X-intercept because it hits the x grid line. And right here, it's hitting the y grid line, so it's a y-intercept. So that's what those are. Notice this is an x and a y coordinate, an x and a y coordinate, right? So notice that the x-intercept has a y coordinate of 0, and the y-intercept has an x coordinate of 0. So it's vice versa, isn't it? When you're on the x-axis, that means your height is 0, so your y-coordinate is 0. And when you're on the when you're a dot on the y-axis, you're a y-intercept. That means your right and left 0, your x-coordinate is 0, so your opposite letter is 0. Okay, let's keep that in mind and use that. So back to this problem. For an x-intercept, make or plug in, let's just say it that way, plug in y equals 0. And right at an x-intercept, and down here at a y-intercept, and a y-intercept, plug in x is 0. So basically it's opposite letter 0. Remember? Opposite letter equals 0. At intercepts. At intercepts, it always means opposite letter is 0. So an x-intercept, y is 0, y-intercept, x 0. That's what we saw back here, right? On this problem, right, we saw right here that the x-intercept had y0 and the y-intercept had x0. Okay, so let's take the equation and make that happen. Here's our equation. y equals minus 2x plus 2. Going to plug in y is 0. 0 equals minus 2x plus 2. And now I need to solve, here, let me move this one down, we don't have room. And now we need to solve that equation for x. Okay, we'll do that. So, subtract 2. Okay, so now subtract 2 from both sides. And so minus 2x is minus 2. Last step, divide by minus 2. And x is positive 1, right? Because 2 negatives make a positive, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. So that means x is 1 came from y 0. Remember we plug in the for intercepts, for x-intercepts or y-intercepts, we plug in the opposite letter as 0. So for this x-intercept, we plugged in y 0 and solved for x and came out x is 1. So that means 1, 0 is the point, because that's the x and that's the y, right? y0, x1. X always comes first, y always comes second when you list out the 2 points. All right, let's do the second part of it. Coming down here, it's, again, y equals minus 2x plus 2, and we're going to find a what? Y-intercept, which means plug x is 0, right? Intercepts mean opposite letter 0. So take this equation, plug in 0 for x right there, the x spot, 0. So what do you get for y? Minus 2 times 0 is just 0 plus 2, y is 2. So that's the point, x is 0, comma, y is 2, right? X, y, 0, 2. There it is. So that's how you find intercepts. If they give you an equation and they ask you to find intercepts, you plug in opposite letter 0. For the x-intercept, make y 0. For the y-intercept, make x 0. There we go. Okay, now number 11 is going on to something totally different. It wants us to figure out the distance between 2 points. Now, how do we find the distance between 2 points? I'm going to actually give you a distance formula. Let me come back here. Number 11. So the distance from negative 4, 1 to 2, negative 4. So here's the formula. Distance is the square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. So we use that formula. All right, so now what's the x1, x2, all that stuff? Well, this is x. Remember, points are always xy, xy. This is x1, y1, the first point's x and y value, and this is the second point's x and y value. That's what we mean by that. So here we go. x1, it's this one, negative 4, subtract, and what's x2? 2 squared, plus y1, that's 1, subtract, and then that one's negative 4 squared. So notice we end up with double negative here. Do you see why that happened? Because we had the minus from the formula, and then the minus 4 had his own minus. So we end up with double negative. You know that becomes positive, right? So here we go. Square root of, this is going to be minus 6 squared. This is going to become plus, so it'll be 5 squared. 2 negatives become positive, right? So that distance then is going to be the square root. That's 36. 6 squared. 6 times 6 is 36. 5 times 5 is 25. That's the square root of, what is that, 61. Square root of 61. That's the answer they want there. Now, on your calculator, if you get the square root of 61, it'll tell you 7.81024996, you know. And so it's to enter a bunch of those decimals, and I'm sure it'll be good. Yeah, as long as you put in like 3 decimal places, or 4 or 5, any 3 or more, it's all good. It doesn't matter how many more. Okay, let's go on then to number 12. Number 12 is another distance one, and distance from 3, 4 to 0 minus 4, so we use the distance formula again, square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared, and this is x1, y1, x2, y2, so that'll be 3 minus, so x1 is 3 minus x2 is 0 squared, plus y1, 4 minus 4 squared. So that's going to be what? 3 squared, and this is going to be double negative becomes positive. That'll be 8 squared. So that distance will be 9. 3 squared, 3 times 3 is 9. 8 times 8 is 64. So that's the square root of 73. And they want you to leave it. They say exact answer, so that means no decimal. They don't want a decimal on this. Now, how do you type that into the system? You type in SQRT, stands for square root, parenthesis, 73, parenthesis. That's how you type it in, and they'll take it that way. Okay, let's go back to 13. So 13, they want the distance between the 2 points. Well, you just have to find the coordinates. Well, what's the coordinates of this point? Back 1, 2, down 1, 2. Back 2, down 2. And what's the coordinates of this point? Over 1, down 1. So we're going to find the distance between them. The distance is the square root of x1 minus x2 squared plus y1 minus y2 squared. So that'll be the square root. This is x1, y1, x2, y2. So negative 2 minus... negative 2 minus 1 squared plus negative 2 minus negative 1 squared. Okay, and then that's negative 2 minus 1 is negative 3. And right here, the double negative becomes positive, right? Negatives head-to-head become positive. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1 squared. So that's 9 plus 1. Square root of 10. Then they want 2 decimal places, so use your calculator. So the square root of 10, 3.16 rounded to 2 places. Okay, 14, I'm just going to say same. It's another distance. They want an exact answer, so you got to type in SQRT of whatever, square root, whatever answer you get. Number 15, a small craft in Lake Ontario sends out a distress signal. The coordinates of the boat are boom, the Coast Guard's Moonlight 2 rescue boat. Is it boom, the Coast Guard's Moonlight 4? Is it that? Which is closer? So you got to find the distance from the boat. This is the boat to the first Coast Guard boat, the rescue boat, 1914, and then you've got to find the distance from that same from the boat to the other rescue boat. So do the distance formula and figure out whichever one is closer, which one has less distance away. So just do the distance formula twice, and you can figure that out. All right, and then number 16, find the midpoint. Now this is different. Midpoint, so that's like the middle. How do we find the middle? How do you find the middle of two? Say you get an 80 on one test and a 90 on the other test on your first 2 exams. That'd be great. How do you find the middle of those two? The middle, we call that the average, don't we? The average is the middle. You do what? You add them and divide by 2, don't you? right? That's how you find the middle of two things, right? That would add up to 170 divided by 2, which would come out 85. 85 is the middle of 80 and 90. It's the average of 80 and 90. So that's how you find the middle. So the middle point, this point right here is like x1, y1, and this other point here is like x2, y2. So the middle point is going to be the average of the two x values, so x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and then the average of the two y values. There's the formula for finding the middle point. It's just the average of the x's and the average of the y's. So what are the coordinates to this point? This is over 0 up 2, over 0 up 2. And what's the coordinates to this point? It's over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Over 5, down 5. Over 5, down 5. So therefore, the midpoint is going to be x1, 0, plus x2, 5 divided by 2, and y2, 2 plus y1 plus y2, negative 5 divided by 2, like that. Which is, if you divide that on your calculator, that'll come out 5 over 2, and this will be negative 3 over 2. I don't know if they want decimals. If they want decimals, you can divide in your calculator, you get 2.5 and negative 1.5. Yeah, that'd be best. There's the answer to that one. And then 17 is the same thing. Just use the same formula and do the same thing. There we go.